We all think about the qualities that make a great leader: compassion, reason, a strong moral compass. But what if those very things were also your greatest weaknesses? Today, we are diving deep into a classic Star Trek story that literally splits a person in two to explore that exact question. It forces us to look at the hidden, darker side of what it really takes to be in command.
At the end of the day, this whole story really just boils down to one simple question. What makes a great leader? We like to think it's all the good stuff, right? Empathy, being thoughtful, making the right choice. But what if the real answer also includes the parts of ourselves we usually try to push down or hide?
So let's break this down. On one hand, you've got the traits we all admire: compassion, logic, empathy. But on the other hand, you've got the stuff that makes us a little uncomfortable: raw aggression, ambition, pure animal instinct. And here's the unsettling idea the story throws at us. What if those so-called negative traits are actually essential for command? What if to be a truly effective leader, you absolutely need both?
So where does this all kick off? Well, as with so many great sci-fi tales, it all starts with what seems like a simple technical problem. We're on board the Starship Enterprise, and a totally routine mission is about to go horribly, philosophically wrong, all thanks to its famous transporter.
Okay, so a landing party is down on this planet, Alpha 177. When a crewman beams back up, his uniform is covered in this weird magnetic yellow dust. That dust gets into the transporter, and it causes this bizarre side effect that, well, nobody even notices at first.
And here is the absolute key to this whole thing. The transporter doesn't just make a copy. It doesn't create a clone. It creates an opposite. It literally splits a living being into its two fundamental halves. One is gentle and good, and the other is just savage, driven by pure raw instinct.
So you can probably guess what happens next. When Captain Kirk himself beams up through that same contaminated system, the ship suddenly has a very, very big problem. There are now two Captain Kirks on the Enterprise, and they are not created equal.
What you get are two completely broken people. The good Kirk is everything you'd want in a friend, right? He's compassionate, he's moral, he's thoughtful. But as a leader, he's a total disaster, literally paralyzed by indecision. And the evil Kirk? He's the exact opposite. A cruel, impulsive monster who has all the drive and ambition that his other half is completely missing.
And this quote just says it all. This is the good Kirk's fatal flaw. When you strip away his aggression, his dark side, he can't command. He can't make the tough calls. He's looking at his officers and basically begging them to take charge. You can just feel the crew's confidence in him evaporating.
And then there's this guy. The evil Kirk has zero problem making decisions. He is all impulse, all raw ambition. He assaults a crew member, he's demanding booze, he's trying to take over the ship through pure brute force. He has the will to command, but none of the morality or compassion to do it right.
And while all this personal drama is unfolding on the ship, let's not forget, the stakes are getting higher and higher. The rest of the landing party is still trapped down on the planet, where the temperature is just plummeting. It's going down to a deadly minus 120 degrees. The clock is ticking, and their lives are now completely dependent on the captain somehow fixing himself.
Okay, so this is where the story shifts gears. It goes from being just a sci-fi action plot to a really deep philosophical debate. And who's leading that debate? Of course, it's the ship's always logical science officer, Mr. Spock. He sees what's happening not as just a problem, but as a fascinating window into the nature of leadership itself.
And here it is. This is the central thesis of the entire episode, laid out perfectly by Spock. He sees that the good Kirk is just weak. He realizes it's the negative side, that ambition, that aggression, that when it's controlled and disciplined by the good side is what actually makes a leader strong. It's like one half is the engine, and the other half is the steering wheel. You need both.
And to add a little bit of heart to Spock's cold logic, we get the ship's doctor, Leonard McCoy. He argues this darker side isn't really evil at all. It's not something to be ashamed of or cut out. It's just human. It's half of what makes us who we are.
And so, we land on this really terrifying truth. Neither Kirk is a complete person, and neither one is an effective leader. The good man is too weak to save his crew, and the evil man is too cruel to be trusted with their lives. They are two halves of a whole, and on their own, both of them are failing.
So that leaves the crew with a seemingly impossible choice. They know, somehow, they have to put these two Kirks back together again.
but they have absolutely no idea if it will even work. The risk is just enormous, and the stakes could not possibly be higher.
To test their theory, they try to reintegrate the little alien animal that was also duplicated at the start. The result? It's a complete catastrophe. The shock of having its two halves violently fused back together kills it instantly. So this isn't a theory anymore. Reintegration could literally be a death sentence for the captain. Which leads to the ultimate question. I mean, what would you do? Do you risk certain death for just the chance to become whole again? For Kirk, the choice is even more brutal. Face that risk, or stand by and let his entire landing party freeze to death while his good self just slowly fades into nothing.
With time almost completely out, Spock comes up with this desperate, last-ditch plan. Put both Kirks into the transporter and just try to reverse the whole thing. They are betting everything on one hope, that Kirk's human intelligence, his consciousness, can overcome the pure animal terror that killed the creature and allow him to survive the shock of becoming whole again.
And that sets the stage for the final, incredibly tense confrontation. This isn't just about flipping a switch on a machine. It's about Kirk having to confront the absolute darkest part of himself and willingly choose to merge with it, knowing full well it could destroy him.
And he does it. With his crew on the absolute brink of death, Kirk manages to force his violent other half into the transporter with him. And it works. The second a single, whole Captain Kirk rematerializes on that pad, he is instantly back in command, snapping out orders to save his crew. He's finally complete again.
But this experience leaves a deep scar. His final thought isn't one of triumph. It's one of quiet horror. He has looked into the abyss of his own soul, stared that raw, untamed animal inside him right in the face, and it's a piece of knowledge that's going to haunt him for the rest of his life.
So after all of that, what's the big takeaway? It's that true strength, whether it's in leadership or just in being a whole person, it's not about being purely good. It's not about getting rid of our darker impulses. It's about having the courage and the intelligence and the compassion to control that darkness, to harness its power, and to point it in a good direction. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The story makes a pretty strong case that without our dark side, we don't have the drive or ambition to really achieve anything. So, if that darkness is the engine that gives us our strength, the real question isn't how we get rid of it, it's how do we learn to command it?